Okay, Grand Rising, everyone. This is Ron. Sunday, August 23rd, a little after 11 a.m. So let's get started, see if we have any questions. Um, talked about a lot, Pastor talked about a lot of stuff on yesterday, so I'm gonna try to recap some of this and we'll open it. We talked about us being in a different space, in a different place, and the responsibility of that, and the help of our ancestors, and the guidance of our ancestors, and recognizing that we are divinity. We talked about frequencies a good bit as well. Uh, the frequencies that we're vibrating on, we can lower ourselves by embracing religion, and we primarily talked about Christianity and Islam. Uh, Lowering ourselves by embracing religious terminology and religious things that we're having or may be having a hard time flushing out of our system. So you can raise your vibrations also by embracing who you are, recognizing that you are a divinity. We talked about uh, because we followed Kabbalah, it was part of our journey, and it was a good thing. Uh, but we learned some terminologies like Insof that does not have any value to us anymore because we learned that Insof was a superior being, and Insof is masculine. So there is no life in there is no birthing anything from Insoft. It can do nothing as far as creating life or extending our journey in any way. Uh, we talked about the Christianity and Islam being devoid of spirituality. So although we may have gotten excited in church or said, used spiritual terms, there was nothing spiritual about those two things. We talked about our ancestral beliefs. We talked about being spiritually conditioned through religion, becoming and the importance of becoming practitioners of religion. Uh, Shifting our priorities to a more universal worldview as opposed to being religious and seeing things through those eyes. Uh, we talked about the relationship between our energy and our frequency, the importance of the importance of you recognizing who you are, so that when you're out in the world, that others can recognize who you are. So if you're not embracing that you are divinity, if for some reason you're holding that back or not expressive to yourself who you are, then others won't see it as well. Uh, so that was, let's see, we talked about the cosmic display that we had last week, and we've talked about that a number of times, but we talked about, Pastor talked about it being the completion of a cycle, and we are thinking about peace and harmony in the earth. Uh, uh, we talked about uh, the English language a little bit more later on as recognize there's a lot more that was said on yesterday, but I got sort of carried away when I was listening to the tape again to do a recap. A lot of things got my attention, and I ended up writing more than I anticipated I would. So I did not get a chance to hear the whole thing. But I want to ask you, are there any thoughts or questions about anything that was said yesterday that I may have gone over or that you may have taken notes on for yourself that may have gotten your attention? Anyone?
This is for Mel. I have a question for Sage in particular.
Okay.
In the discovery that Einsof was male energy, and I'm not sure how to question form this question, but my question is, the thought was, in traveling during the period we traveled, believing I guess the concept of Einsof, what was the opportunity that we gained as we walked that thought until we uncovered it being masculine energy and nothing can be birthed from masculine energy?
We lost nothing,
Okay.
and we accomplished everything because of faithfulness and desire.
Okay.
We didn't do it purposely. We did it with Einsof, the same thing that we did with Christianity. When we
So
when
it's
we learned when we learned the difference, when we learned that it had no value to us, what did we do? We sought that which has value to us. So this, our following this and believing that Ansoff was positive for us until now, it says a lot about the journey as well as those of us who are on the journey. When you know better, you do better. In other words, when you see that there is no value in what you have been following or teaching, you admit what you have learned differently than what you have taught, and you take a responsibility for that, having taught that, and you give an account of what the true nature of it is and should be. So instead of trying to make excuses about why we used it, the reality is we did it because that's what we were studying during the time. And if I may continue for another maybe 60 seconds, um, on this journey,
Pastor,
yes,
may I add something to that before you move forward?
okay,
Um, Divine Rising, everyone.
Divine Rising.
The other thing it did for me, particularly, is it broadened my perspective of the God that I had created beyond my creation, if that resonates. It began to take me out of that box of my creation of what God is to a larger awareness of what the Creator was. And so it was a step for me outside of the box. And so that's the way I look at this journey. And it is a journey. So for me, it was a map. It didn't get me to my final destination. I might have taken a scenic route, but that scenic route added value to my understanding that my God in the box I put it in was not all. So it doesn't mean I benefited from it. And now that, as you say, I know better, I have benefited from understanding that I am the source and the source is me. So thank you for letting me say that.
Yeah,
thank
it was
you.
very necessary. I agree wholeheartedly.
George,
Yeah, yeah, Divine Rising and everyone. As to what Barbara was saying, I also the second cosmic law is we are to treat the creator creations as we treat the creator in us. And so as Barbara was speaking in reference to us being able to know that we are the creators, having this human experience, but more importantly, we know that, and now we are to treat the creator's creation as we treat ourselves. So I think that definitely has some validity with regards to us being able to appreciate the journey that we're on. And I just wanted to respond, to the comments that was made so far. I'm done.
thank you. Thank both of you. What I was about to say in those 60 seconds is this. It shows um, the depth of our credibility and desire to make sure that we are correct. I could have very easily glossed over it and never said it again. But that's just not who we are. When you're engaged in the search for truth, when you see that what you have said in the past was not the truth of the from the Creator, it is then that you speak to it. And if you are uncomfortable speaking to it or bringing it to the attention of those you're teaching, then you're not worthy to be a teacher. And you're not worthy of their trust. You have to be honest with everything that you teach. And if you're teaching something and someone else raises a question about it and you see that they are clearer than you are or that they are correct in what they're saying as opposed to what you've said, you capitulate to that because the objective is to create truth in the macro as well as seeing the truth that is ingrained in us. And between Barbara and George and myself and Ron's comment, Vermilla, I'm asking you if all that resonates and clears it up for you.
It did, and I appreciate everyone's input. I had the thought before that every event we go through is an opportunity. And so I wanted to understand with you saying that you opened it up more for me to understand that there is no desire is going to guide us as we grow because it's not a one pit stop place. So
Right.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Any questions?
I have a question, sir. Like when in terms of Einsof, from just like from studying and like even in other spiritual practices, I feel like we've always created something or some being that was like far as like even when we say the source, I feel like it's creating separation, and I feel like what you're doing is removing the separation where there is no separation, there is no higher being that our mind can. Because even religion says we can't understand the mind of God, and I know we've heard that in church before. Like you don't know God. Our thoughts are not God's thoughts, and it was always a separation. Like it was something always between us and the source. And what I feel like what you're doing now is removing that space. There's no gap between us and the source. We are it, and it is us. And like the power that then what you're saying it's empowering to the point where you it's nobody to blame. It's nobody. It's all resting on your own shoulders, and it feels good. I mean it's nothing to be afraid of, but it just feels empowering what you're saying.
Yeah. Thank you, Don. Let me ask if you guys did that resonate, or is it clear to you what Don was saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It is.
Clear.
Yes, it's clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. And that's a segue. Go ahead, Audrey, because I'm going in another direction.
Well, I might be, but I think it's related. Yesterday, you talked a bit about prayer versus meditation, and you mentioned that you don't necessarily pray anymore, that you more meditate than anything. If this is a good time, could you elaborate on what difference you found between prayer versus meditation, and then how it brought you into these new revelations, I guess.
Yes. Prayer. When we were taught to pray, we pray from our minds. And when I look at it retrospectively, what I was doing was multiplying words and words to say that was going to reach the people who were in front of me, as opposed to those words reaching the quote unquote God to whom I was praying. Prayer was an action of a ritualistic action that was necessary to open a meeting, that was necessary to give you the confidence to lay down at night and waking up in the morning and traveling through your day after you prayed, which actually had no power whatsoever, because that we offered, which you all make sure your phones are muted, please. The prayers that we offered did not bring us relief. Meditation, on the other hand, when would you please make sure that your phones are muted? The meditation, on the other hand, opened me up to receive, as opposed to me feeling as though it was necessary for me to multiply words, for me to say anything. When I meditate, the words that I utter is simple. I'm here to receive preparation for this day, for the now. And I don't make a decision about how long I'm going to be in that state of meditation. It's as though I move my body away from that space when I have reached the goal, and the goal is to be prepared. And that preparation does not come in words. It comes in what I'm experiencing at that moment. So the difference between prayer and meditation for me is that instead of me begging and begging for healing, begging for money, begging for peace, I simply become the peace. I simply become the means that's necessary to be the healing for the universe, and as well as for this earth. I hope that kind of explains what I'm talking about, Audrey.
And so do you think that enabled, well, I guess getting in touch more with who you are and yourself, it enabled you to connect more with the Akashic consciousness?
Yes, it makes me more aware of cosmic consciousness and self, and the major thing about being aware of self is that when I'm aware, when it makes me aware of self, self becomes more than James Rich's body or name. Self becomes a case of consciousness, wisdom, understanding, love, and kindness. That's who self is. So it gives me a sense of the broader aspects of self. And that is the reason I don't have to say, I am a good man or I am peace. I simply say that either I am a divine entity or I am God. And that covers all of that. Everything that you are covers anything that you could ask to be.
So it looks like then prayer, the way we've been taught to define prayer, is one of those ways that we cast spells continuously, particularly on a Sunday when lots of people are in church and they're up there at the altar praying and asking for or pleading with, or like you said, begging for. In other words, it is one of the biggest things, the way we define it, one of the biggest things that keeps us separated from who we are, that keeps us separated from the spiritual being that we are, because it's outside of ourselves, giving some power to an entity outside of ourselves when we ask or when we plead or when we cry out from not from the essence of who we are, but from the physical being that we are. So prayer, I think it's important that we're discussing this today, because in the discussion, that's what I'm seeing, that it is one of the biggest things that continues to keep us separated from the divine being that we are. And what you said about meditation resonated so powerfully, because that's in the silence that we can hear the inner aspect of who we are. And that silence is so different from the prayers that we hear in the physical. Thank you for letting me interject that.
Thank you for interjecting it.
I got a comment.
Go ahead.
Let
me finish.
To add, I was thinking about something.
Done.
While Ms. Bob, hello.
Let me finish this.
Can you hear me? Okay.
The Bible says that the eye is the light for the body. What is it saying? When it talks about the light, the eye being the light of the body, what it's actually saying is that it is through your eyes that you receive the light. Your eyes that you receive the light in order for your eye to be opened, because of the energy of the sun bathing your eyes and entering the space of your eyes, and that energy lodges itself in the pineal gland and enhances your ability to not only receive, but to articulate what you receive, even though you are not thinking about it before you begin to respond to something. And I'll go further in that if necessary. Go ahead, Don.
I was thinking about like a while back. It's probably been some years ago. We talked about praying and prayer without ceasing, and what we came to a place where we talked about how praying without ceasing was about vibration and vibrating in rhythm with the source, but in the past and how we've learned to pray, it was always from a place of lack, because we was always asking for something. And what I've learned from my experience with meditation is I'm not meditating from a place of lack. I'm meditating from a place of awakening and remembering. That is what when I meditate, I'm trying to do two things. I'm trying to awaken what's already inside of me and remember what's already inside of me. And so and there's also accountability in that as well, because we're not looking for some outside magical thing to take place. We know we are responsible for the results that we get out of this. And so that's just kind of what came to my mind when you were talking about that. That's all.
Okay, I want to speak to what you just said, Don. You're trying to get to this place. When you said that, you just cast a spell on your efforts, because the contaminated language that we use has an impact on what we are, what our expectations are. Because when you say that you're trying, What your consciousness here is, I'm attempting but not succeeding. What your consciousness here is, effort without results. Because you've never accomplished anything that you've tried. You either did it or you didn't. You see that, Don?
Yes, sir.
So
Yeah.
the reason I'm glad you used the word trying is because there's no fragility with you. And I'm glad you used it. It gave us opportunity to speak to this question of contaminated language and move forward from there. In a few moments, I'm going to. I wrote something in February, and I'm going to read a paragraph of it as we segue into responding to some of the questions that came as to the question of how do we move beyond time, and the question of what are we talking about when we talk about the that this language casts. So.
Hello. Uh, Hello, Pastor Richard. Divine Rising, everyone. I wanted to comment on all that was just said right quick before we segue away. The meditation and prayer, and what I was thinking and also hearing that prayer is, as you said, or as has been said, a request, and it is seeking for something that is outside of oneself. That they also, in a sense, believe that it's possible, but is not real in a sense. Whereas with meditation, and it is more so the source, as you mentioned, in the mind. Is more so, I guess you would say, the energy or the light of that particular situation is concentrated more so in the mind. Whereas with meditation, it is that one is seeking for something as well, or making something happen, but is also coming from within. It is a lot more, for lack of better words, at the moment, believable in terms of that thing actually taking place. It is not that one, in a sense, is kind of doubting it. There's more of a surety of it. And as with the prayer, is more so concentrated in the mind. The meditation is more so concentrated and felt throughout the entire body, especially the heart, as that thing is actually being brought into existence. It's as if you are becoming one with that particular thing, that is coming into fruition, or that creation that is actually taking place is a lot more personal and seems a lot closer in a sense. Prayer is fleeting and almost running behind something that you're trying to capture, but it is away. You're trying to reach for it in a sense. And in that acting of reaching, when we talk about the belief, part of the belief is that it doesn't exist or is not true to begin with. I must do something to capture it, but is that slight, not thought about acknowledgement at the same time that thing does not exist, which I wish to be. And as you concentrate very, very hard, the harder that you're actually wishing, in a sense, the further it is still being pushed out away from reality. And so going back, and I'm trying to put out this word, that meditation is more so creating and inviting that thing, is not pushing it off in a sense. Again, the reality of whatever it is that's being meditated on becomes real first within the body, and the body is completely embracing it as if it is real, and then it comes to fruition in the physical following. I'm finished, I think, at the moment.
Thank you. Are there any questions about what Sheldon just presented? Does it resonate?
Grand Rising family, it resonates. And I don't have a question about what Sheldon said, but I do want to make a comment, and well, two comments actually. The first being one of the things that I learned recently in just studying about energy flows and meditation. One of the things that really resonated deeply with me is it said in your meditation, as you're focusing and you're centering yourself and you're breathing, and it said that all you have to say is, I am. And it was very specific and saying you don't even have to say anything after that, because if I'm focusing on I am, that I am, but it just said I am, as I'm breathing, I am, that resonated deeply with me because I'm not searching for the words to fill into what I am, because I know that I am everything that I need to be. I know that I am whatever I need to be in any situation. And that helped me tremendously to free my mind from searching for words to help me to understand who I am and what I am in the moment. So I just wanted to share that. But also, I'm glad you're going to the thing on language and words casting spells, because all the things that we've talked about with words and the power of words, we've never said it in the terms of words casting spells. And that just resonates with me. And I'm glad you're opening it up more, because I never thought about that terminology of casting a spell. So that just hits home, and I'm really excited to know that you're going to open that up and show us even more, even in the example that you used with what Don said a moment ago. I wouldn't have thought of that as casting a spell if you had not said it that way. So I'm very interested in seeing and understanding more of what you mean when you say words cast a spell. So thank you for letting me share that.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Any other questions or comments? Okay, as I said previously, there is something I wrote in February, and my intent was to send it to the teachers. It's like 4.5 pages, but I'm not reading that. I just want to read one paragraph because it speaks directly to where we are going with this language. We, the descendants of a Kabbalah, were the first inhabitants of this planet, have been abused more than any other inhabitants of the planet. We lost our sense of living in the now. We became prisoners of a non-existent past, present, and future. We, the divine being of the planet, were duped into becoming the subjects of the last to occupy this planet. We became the worshippers of the most damnable group of inhabitants to ever live. Until this day, we, the creators of language, are enslaved by the language we were forced to adopt. A language that is devoid of any compassion, a language that has no structure, yet it is capable of rendering its speakers impotent. A language of barbarians. That's the paragraph I wanted to share with you. Why? Because we are, when I say that we must redeem the language, because the redemption of the language redeems the speakers of the language. The redemption of the language is to free it from casting spells of negativity, spells of lack, spells of fear. And when that is accomplished, that will speak to everyone on this earth. Because if you are Babylonians, if you are black people, then there are fears in our midst that we don't admit. We carry them because we're afraid not to go to church. We carry them because we're afraid to say that Jesus never existed. Those are fears. But then there is within the Asian community, there are fears. If I don't act like I'm white, if I don't buy into this white supremacist society, then I am going to be an outcast. And with white people who are poor and have absolutely nothing, I'm afraid that I'm gonna be called a nigger lover. So I can't deal with them. I don't want to interact with them. These are fears, and it does not matter what your fear is. It's still fear. And in order for us to be the redeemers of the language, we must cast these fears away from everyone who are bound by them. Does that resonate?
Very deeply.
Yes.
So thank you. So let's look at this from how it was purposely done. The English language was recognized as being a language that casts spells. And that is the reason in 1946, etymology was no longer taught in the school, because etymology will show you the spells that these words cast. Even with the cursive writing, you hear the cursed writing. And when we talk about spelling, we talk about casting spells. We're talking about being in denial of our reality. The concept of today is not what we think it is. The concept of the idea of today is spiritual in nature, because it speaks to the now, and I'll get to that back to that in a moment. We have to be cognizant of our words, because our words render us to being submissive to the energy of the language. Government. Govern means to control. Ment means mind. So it's talking about governmental control of your mind. All of these things are self-induced. All these words are self-induced bondage. Our words are not describing reality. We think that when we use adjectives to describe what we are experiencing, that we are describing the reality that we live in, but that's not true. What we are doing is creating a reality. We're not living in the reality that we are, or that was created for us. We are creating our reality with words. Is that clear so far?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. And that is one of the things I was attempting to make, not attempting, that I was making clear when Dawn said trying. And just now I said attempting, because you do not accomplish anything that you attempt. You either do it or you don't. And if you are, we all of us have spoken the language that has created a reality that we do not want to live in. And we go through things. How much you mute your phone, please? We go through things, and the things that we go through, we take them with us. We don't leave them behind. We don't grow through them. we go through them and take them with us, and that is the reason we continuously go through things. I was speaking with someone who I've been encouraging all week on the journey that they're taking. And a moment ago, when I turned my camera off, I was speaking to them to further encourage them, because they had lost the grip that they had on moving forward in a very, very positive way, and entered into a space of what ifs. When you begin to deal with what ifs, what you are doing is negating everything that you said you desire. And I'm not talking about the name it and claim it ministry. That's not what I'm talking about. If you read the 6th chapter of Matthew, that culminates with the verse, "Seek you first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added." What you will also see there is an understanding that if the birds do not store, but they always have the opportunity to eat. Grass grows and it is burned away, but it is continuously fed by nature itself. So that being the case, why do we concern ourselves with what we are going to eat? Why do we concern ourselves with what's going to happen tomorrow when we are told, take no thought for tomorrow? And the reason we are told, take no thought for tomorrow, because there is no such thing as tomorrow. It is always today. And today, as I said earlier, is a spiritual thing. Manifestation in our lives is not governed or is not bound by time. Manifestation is delayed by our speech and our belief and knowledge of self. Our desired manifestations are delayed by us because of doubt and because of the way we speak. We see things that happen to other people, and immediately we become doubtful as to whether or not we are able to be to see a manifestation of what we desire just because they did not. Well, what happened is the church has taken this concept of manifestation, not even using that word, and entered into something called name it and claim it. If you want to see, you see a house that you want, and you claim it in the name of Jesus. What they're actually saying is, if you claim it in the name of Jesus, it will manifest. That's the biggest lie ever been told. You're not going to get my house by naming it and claiming it. The other thing is that when you do that, you are seeking manifestation from a source that doesn't exist. And in addition to that, you are seeking the wrong thing. You are seeking more income. You're seeking a better neighborhood, a better car, better clothes. When those are none of the things that you should be seeking at all, because the cosmic mother is very much aware, the ancestors are very much aware that we live in a world where these bodies must be sustained materially and protected materially. And when we seek the essence of who we are, it is up to those, the ancestors, the cosmic mother, to bring those things into our orbit for the purpose of our being able to continue to teach, to be an example to humanity so that they are able to not only see but experience what loving kindness feels like, what it experience, what love feels like as opposed to hate. So let me stop first. Are there any questions right now? Okay. So when we talk about today or now, we talk about manifestation. All of that is spiritual, and even the night, night represents wisdom and in light. Excuse me for 1 second, please. And day represents enlightenment of that wisdom. So when I say that we are always in the now, all I'm saying is this: there are no divisions between wisdom and enlightenment. So the now is the enlightenment that we constantly receive. The night is the wisdom that we constantly seek, because the truth of spirituality is shrouded in wisdom. The garment of wisdom covers it, and the desire to understand it comes in the day. Day is the enlightenment of that wisdom. So when we look at it from that perspective, and I say to you that manifestation is only delayed by how we speak. When we speak a language that's cast spells, we have to make sure that the spell or the magic that's being cast is the magic that will benefit the whole of humanity. The spell that's being cast is that which will benefit humanity. The question, how, again, I go back to the redemption of the language. When people are speaking the right way, the right things, they are also thinking the right way and the right thing. Meaning that when the redemption of the language eliminates the trying, the redemption of the language eliminates the thought of scarcity. So we don't talk about need and we don't talk about want, because that's scarcity. We are only limiting our sense and understanding of what reality really is. We will never know what reality really is until we change the way we speak. Because saying that I hope it happens, maybe it will, if it does, I'm going to do this. All of those things are putting boundaries around the desires that you express. What has happened recently is that we have actually dumbed down the language and even contaminated it more. And that increase in contamination is text messages and emojis. The abbreviated text messages rather than full sentences. The emojis as opposed to a response, a written response. And even in the writing, we have to be cautious about how we write and what we say in that messaging. We talk about having the correct grammar. And grammar is a system of words, a system of spells. And the correct grammar is not whether or not you use a verb in the right place. Correct grammar is making sure that what you are saying is not a curse, is not a spell that will injure anyone, because words are technologies. And if words are technologies, and they are, then the technology of their word not only affects the one who is hearing it, but it also has an effect on the one who is speaking it. So when we talk about putting things in the macro, we are using a spiritual technology to clear the thought patterns, clear the minds of those who have given up, or those who are seeking deliverance through something that does not exist. In the writings that I read a paragraph of, one of the things I mentioned is that we have been convinced that if we live in hell on the earth, we will be able to experience plenty when we get to heaven. We have been convinced of that. Yet, in our memory, we understand that heaven and hell is in this earth. And we have created a heaven for the enslaver. And the enslaver has made sure that they appropriate our energy through Christianity and Islam and etc. They appropriate our energy to keep us in hell, but keep them in what they have deemed to be their heaven, a life of leisure. Questions or comments so far? Is it resonating? Kathy, you raised the question. Is this resonating?
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you.
Ron?
It does. Now, I was just going to say, yes, it does resonate. Thank you.
So when we understand this, that words have frequencies, and these frequencies, this technology, is what creates the grammar. And the type of grammar that comes from this creation determines whether you experience manifestation or not. One of the ways that I have spoken to people, one of the ways I've given to people to see this more clearly is when everything in your life seems to be out of kilter, and you determine that that is not who I am, and this is not where I live, and you stay focused on that, and one day you look retrospectively and you see that you're not living under those circumstances anymore, because you have created a reality that you were supposed to experience. This lady said to me, my husband and I are buying a house, and there are some things that we have to get cleared up before they're going to allow the purchase to go through. And we spoke with the people who could clear this up, and they told us that it's going to be anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks before they can get back to us, because we're on a list of people who are seeking the same thing. My response to them was this: it doesn't matter what they say. Every time that you receive an email in regards to what's being said to you, respond and CC everyone. And I guarantee you, you will not have to wait 6 to 8 weeks. And they says to me, but, no buts. None. I don't want to hear anything else from you. Just do what I've asked you to do. And every single time that doubt creeps in, I want you to hear these words. Do exactly what I've asked you to do. They did it. And in 4 days, they had a response. Why did that happen? Because you guys know if I say I got you, I got you. And for those of you who may not be aware of that, if I say I got you, it simply means that whatever you say is null and void. What's being said by virtue of you casting your cares is what I say. I've said that for years and didn't understand it. But now it is time for you to have each other. It's time for you to have yourself. It's time for you to speak differently on your own behalf. It's time for you to speak slowly so that you can speak correctly. It's time for you to take a breath before you allow words to flow from your mouth. Doesn't matter how long it takes you to get it straight, but get it straight. Because if it doesn't come out in the way it should, it's going to come out as a curse because you're casting a spell on your desires or on the people around you. Questions or comments?
Yes, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. You say that we cast spells. Can other people cast spells on us?
No. They can only cast a spell on us if we are not clear as to who we are. Let me put it this way, Audrey. How is it that the ones who cannot do anything unless they appropriate your energy, how can they cast spells on you when you have not allowed them the access to your energy? What do I mean by that? Every time you go to church, every time you go to a mosque, every time you embrace Christianity or Islam, you are allowing others who are the enslavers to appropriate your energy for their benefit because you are submitting your energy to a Jesus that they gave you, to a God that they created, to a doctrine that has never been for your benefit. And when you do that, you are allowing them to utilize your energy in any way they desire. So regardless of what is said or done, you are the only one who can cast a spell on your desires. You're the only one who can do that when you have embraced the reality of who you are. Does that help you, Audrey?
Yes, indeed. Because I am constantly saying to myself that I am, and no one else can tell me who I am except me. I am.
That's
So yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone?
Along on yesterday, you talked about the English language being a language of violence. That also is being addressed, right? When you recognize who you are, you take away the energy, that negative energy out of the language, regardless of who's speaking it. Am I?
Yes.
You may not have been talking literal violence, but Explain to me what you meant, I guess, and then see if we've addressed it.
I'm talking about linguistic violence as well as physical violence.
Okay.
I'm talking about any violence, period. Emotional violence, yes. That's what I'm talking about. A language without compassion, or a language that only has a love for this material world.
Yeah.
And the redemption of the language changes the focus of the language. The redemption of the language changes the flavor of the language. So rather than that language having a frequency of 15, a vibration of death, or the frequency of death, or dead body, that language begins to match the frequency of the divinity that has redeemed it. The whole purpose for redeeming the language is for the language to match the frequency of divinity. That is when the language begins to embrace Mayat without even knowing what Mayat is. That is when the speakers of the language, the embracers of the language, begin to experience what it feels like to have compassion. That's when they begin to have what we call a conscious, being aware of how violent they've been, and having a desire to move in a totally different direction. Does that help, Ron?
Yeah, it does. Our birth language. Uh, I guess suppose when people were stolen off of the landmass that we now know as a Kabbalah, we talked about this before, them taking the best, the strongest, the wisest, those sort of things. Uh, although they did not speak the same language, is that an example of the one but many? Because they took people who were harmonious and loving and brought them to a land and a language that was total opposite. In a spiritual way, I guess is what I'm asking you, looking at that harmony was broken, wasn't it? And well, does my question make sense, I guess?
Well, it most certainly does.
I don't think it makes sense.
It resonates.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh, the foundation that you laid for your desire for insight in regards to this. And I must back up a little bit, because all of us did not come from Africa.
Okay.
There are those of us who were already here. Even now, there are pockets of the so-called Native Americans who are saying that we were not the first people here. We came across the Bering Strait, and our people took the land from the black people who were already here. So all of us were not brought across the Atlantic. And the reason that our history says that all of us were It is because of the desire to disassociate us from this landmass and have us seeking another landmass and giving this one up. Well, when we believe that all of us came from the landmass that's now called Africa, all our energy is directed towards Africa and not here. And again, our energy is going in the wrong direction because the appropriators of our energy has told us that's the direction we should be focused on. However, we understand that every landmass on this celestial ball called Earth was occupied by people who look like us. It is then that we understand more clearly that when we talk about a Kabbalah, we are talking about the garden of life, and that includes the whole earth.
Mhm.
So when we talk about them having brought the strong, the wise from the continent, that is true. However, they also took the strongest, the wise, the leadership from us who were already here, and those who rejected were killed. And when we as long as we embrace the reality that we were already here, there is a reappropriation of our energy to utilize for ourselves. Are you guys familiar with the man whose last name was Perry in South Carolina, whose DNA was 300,000 years old? Have you
Yeah.
read?
No.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That man's DNA, thank you, and Vermilla, I'm going to make an effort to explain it. That man's DNA, 300,000 years old, and showed that he was indigenous to this continent, to North America, I should say. He was indigenous to North America.
Hmm.
Can I just add something?
Of course.
Well, I remember we talked before about I mentioned that they are excavating some of the mounds and what they thought were Indian mounds in Alabama, and they're discovering some of the bones that they discovered were African, and they dated it to 600 or more years before Columbus arrived, which makes me think about the fact that when Columbus came and he saw the black people, um, he made 2 or 3 more voyages, and when he came again, the second, third, whatever time, he brought more black people with him, like from the Canary Islands and whatever. Um, so seeing those black people probably, I mean, it resonates that seeing those black people already here gave him the idea to bring more over.
Yeah, you're right, because in his first voyage, if you were to read his diary, he talks about the first people he saw were black. So the whole history of that has been altered in order for us not to be able to lay claim to this land.
What was his purpose of bringing more? Just
I don't know whether he mentioned that the purpose of not altering, did he?
They were sailors, and he probably
okay,
thought
okay,
they could interact with the ones that were already here.
okay.
The color go interact with the colors is already there.
Yeah.
But keep in mind also that Columbus was taught to sail by Africans. He learned how to sail in Northern Africa.
From Moors, right?
Yeah. And still didn't get the message because he ended up in the wrong place.
Well, could it also be that he brought more blacks to make feel more, to make the ones that were already here trust him more, kind of like what they do today?
And what that's what Audrey was saying, yeah.
Probably, yeah.
And that's why you got a black pastor who tells you that God is going to deliver you because his son Jesus died for you. And when you look up at Jesus, he looked like the one who put chains on you. But anyway, to get back to Ron's original question. So I say all that to say this. There are a multiplicity of languages on the continent, on this world, in this world, period. And indeed, we are the first inhabitants of this globe. And being the first inhabitants of this globe says that we are the progenitors of all languages.
Yeah.
Now, let's enter this. Let's enter the doorway that's opening to us about these languages and understand our relationship to this English language. If we were permitted to continue speaking our language, we would never have engaged in speaking English unless we were speaking to people who spoke English. We were forced to learn this language because this is the language of evilness. This is the language that perpetuates imperialism. This is the language that perpetuates the most horrific things that can happen to a person in the earth. When you listen at the people who speak from Israel, from France, from Spain, when they are speaking in regards to what they deem to be people, terrorists, what they deem to be terrorists, they always speak in language. They always speak in English. Have you not noticed that? They do interviews, they're speaking in English. And even if they're not speaking English, it's translated into English. The dominant language of this earth. Why? Because the perpetuators of evilness speak English and have forced everyone to speak English as the dominant language, even if they speak other languages. The primary one is English. English is the language of trade. English is the language of everything that has allowed people with an European mindset to accumulate control of the people on this earth as well as the material things in this earth. So the ancestors, the cosmic mother, granted that we didn't want to, but we were forced to embrace this language. And by embracing this language, we were like a rat on the trellis. We were running, but we were getting nowhere because the trellis that we were running on was powered by Christianity and Islam. So we were getting nowhere. We were exhausted, and when we looked around, we had made no advances whatsoever. So here we are on this journey, and we have entered this space of cosmic energy that infused the earth on August 12th. And what this cosmic energy has done has granted us the opportunity to see how to bring order to humanity. And though this is not our birth language, this is the language that we must redeem. Everything was created with words. And when we look at the reality of that, then if words create reality, and the reality that's been created by these words are a reality that cursed everyone in the earth except Europeans, and in some cases even Europeans. The redemption of that language is our responsibility. When we talked about our bringing into effect a transformation of that European mindset, if we were speaking Kiswahili, that mindset would not be changed or transformed because it would still be processing in English, a language of curses. However, when we speak the language of loving kindness while using English words, we are transforming the energy of the language itself. And the transformation of the language itself transforms the speakers of that language. There are no words for jail or prison in the languages of the continent. So when we speak about a prison in English, and we talk about what a prison is designed to do, when we talk about it is a form of enslavement, and we begin to speak that it is enslavement, then what are we saying? In order for us to be free from the chains of enslavement, of prison, is for us to recognize who we are. And when we begin to recognize who we are, this whole concept of imprisoning African men for the express purpose of destroying families, that begins to change because our speech in regards to these things began to change. So we are casting a spell of spirituality when we talk about those things that must be transformed. And that transformation, as I said, transforms the mindset of the speakers of that language also, because they begin to speak what we speak. And we can see the change of language. When we talk about those of you guys who have been on with California, when we talk about what we have been talking about, rather, has transformed the way they talk about things. Their language has shifted. Have you noticed that? I noticed it quite some time ago, especially the language of the leadership of that congregation. He speaks differently than he did in the beginning. So, Ron, what I'm saying in essence is that it was imperative that the language that we were, our birth language, the language that we spoke before Europeans arrived, it was imperative that we learn the nuances of that language. It is no different than living in Pharaoh's house, so that you can understand the ways of Pharaoh.
Yeah.
It is no different. And if we were not leadership in the churches that we came out of, we would not be capable of teaching what we teach because we would not understand the nuances of Christianity, Islam, etc. It's the same.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. So this idea of Islam and Christianity, you had a question in regards to that?
Well, I understand Christianity, and I wonder if why we, especially seems like black men, embraced Islam so tightly because of rebellion against Christianity, or just yeah, rebellion would be a good word, I guess. Uh, because that language, I mean, that religion too seems to have just as much of a stronghold, maybe even more, because it is not, it is something that they think is opposed to Christianity and so much different. And it seems to be, at least some of the people that I know, embraced very strongly.
Okay. When we look at Christianity itself, what we see is that the father of Christianity, not mothers, the father of Christianity is Catholicism. Yet, through it, masculinity is projected as being the leadership of everything. However, the Pope, every morning when the Pope gets up, the first thing the Pope does is pray. But when the Pope prays, he prays in front of the image of the Black Madonna. So that tells me that the Pope understands that femininity is the origin of everything in this earth. So he's seeking to appropriate that feminine energy in order to empower Christianity or himself, and so that he could have control of all of these, the people who submit to Christianity. And the funny thing about it is that the people who submit to Christianity are ignorant of the reality that they are also submitted to Catholicism. Because that is the root from which the fruit of denominationalism grew.
Yeah.
Islam. Black men, in particular, embrace Islam because they see African men who have embraced Islam. And they don't understand that the Elijah Muhammad Nation of Islam was financed by this Jewish billionaire out of Texas, as well as the SCLC was, and the NCAAP was also financed by the same person. Why would someone finance those things? In order to control them. And the other part of it is that Black men are not aware of what Islam is and where it came from. They're not aware that Islam was enslaved us 1,000 years before Europeans did, before Christianity did. And they're not aware that Islam is a religion of enslavement, just like Christianity is. They're not aware that they are bowing to a God who is Arabic. Islam is pro-Arabic, not pro-God. Can you see that difference?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So in this case, we're talking about Arabic supremacy. And Christianity is white supremacy. Arabs don't have a clear origin. Well, what do I mean? The clear origin of humanity comes from us. However, the Arab nations came from the interrelationship between Europeans and Asians. And that is the genesis of Arabs, period. Now, you're saying out of Europe, think about this, people. Europe is not a continent. Europe is connected to what? What What nation? The Asians. Europe is a part of Asia, if you want to look at it that way. But it is attached to Asia, and the raping and the pillaging that Europeans did with each other did not change when they came in contact with other people. And the raping and the pillaging that they had done to each other, they also did it in Asia, and they also did it in northern Africa. And when the Arabs enslaved us, the Arabs began to take over northern Africa. And that is the reason to this day, if you mention that Egypt is a part of Africa, if you mention that the pyramids were built by Africans, they will withdraw your visa for being in that country and put you out, because they do not associate themselves with people who look like us. And they demand that false history becomes real to the people around them. No different than we have been forced to embrace a false history that all of us came from Africa and none of us were here originally. Can you see that? Same principle. And black men are ignorant of that. Ignorant doesn't mean dumb. They are unaware of the nature of Islam, the origin of Islam, and the nature of themselves, the divinity of it all. George.
No, we're just thinking. Go ahead, I'm done.
Ron, does that help?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Questions or comments about this? No questions, no comments. Those of you who had questions, did we cover the question or respond to the question in a way that it brought clarity to you? Or are there any other lingering questions?
Yes, Pastor Rich. Excuse me. Yeah, the question I was asking that I text you about, I might have missed it when transcending time.
Yes, transcending of time speaks to understanding what day and night is. When we transcend time, we always live in the now. My body tells me that it's time for me to lay down, and my soul tells me that the body lays down in order to silence the world around us, so that the energy that's necessary for changing the thought patterns of mankind with this English language we must be rejuvenated spiritually, meaning that during the course of our sleep, not only are we shown things, when we are dreaming it, actually our body leaves, our spirit leaves the body, and it experiences those things in real time. When we are lying there, we receive an infusion of, or an enhancement, I should say maybe, of melanin. And we are also impregnated during that period. But we take the dreams that we don't understand immediately, and we say that didn't make any sense, and we let them go. We don't look for a spiritual understanding or wait for one, a spiritual understanding to embrace those dreams. So just because our body is asleep, it does not mean that we cannot live in the now. We have been taught that we live in the past, in the future, and we came from a past. Everything that has happened is still in the now. That energy is still here. The now is not governed by your physical body's present. The now is governed by spirituality. When we talk about the now, the greatest hindrance to living in the now is having a mindset of separation in the material world and making application and applying it to the spiritual world as well. When we live a life of divinity through understanding the spiritual nature of our being, we are always in the now. And I know that it's kind of difficult to wrap your mind around it. But take no thought for tomorrow, because tomorrow has enough of unrightness of its own. What is that talking about? Tomorrow, we call tomorrow the next day. But if we look at tomorrow and today in relationship to spirituality, we see that spirituality sees the day as the period of enlightenment and the night as the period of the receiving of wisdom. Tomorrow has enough evil of its own, means that when you see the next day as tomorrow, what you are doing is exempting yourself from the spiritual essence of what today and what the day and night is. And you are embracing a non-existent reality. And that non-existent reality is that there is such a thing of tomorrow. However, when we look at it spiritually, there is never a tomorrow. Tomorrow represents the evilness that's in the earth. If tomorrow is real, then what are you going to call Monday? Are you going to call Monday tomorrow when Monday gets here? No. What are you going to call it? Today. Are we not? Yes, James, we are. So we are talking about a material thing versus a spiritual thing. And the spiritual thing is the meaning of night and day. And the material thing is tomorrow. Because tomorrow is indicative of the evilness, the unrightness that's in this physical world or this material world. Angela, does that help you with that questions? And if anyone can add to that, please do so.
It does. It helps. Thank you.
Thank you. Does this resonate, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Just that thinking about tomorrow is a separation in a sense anyway. When we're living right now and what we do right now, what we think right now is the important thing. That's eternity. That's living in eternity, because all that matters is the nowness of our existence. When you say tomorrow, it separates you from now, the nowness of existence.
Yeah.
A lot of times we say, well, we'll do something tomorrow or we'll do it next week. That's a separation. The important thing is, what are we thinking? What are we doing right now? Because then when the body rests, What we did in the now continues in the nowness of the next, quote unquote, day, which is really material. So all that is important is right now. And if we could receive that and understand that and do all we can as we can right now, we won't have to worry about tomorrow. That's the right word. Tomorrow is a kind of opportunity to worry. Future is an opportunity to worry. And those are negative concepts. Those are curses in a way, as you said. So all we have is now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah. On the heels of that, all of our power lies within the now.
Yes.
I'm finished.
And anything that separates us in our minds from that becomes our weakness and gives impotence to those who seek to control our minds. The now is all that we have. So I don't want you guys to beat yourselves up for the words that you may utter out of habit, because you have been taught to speak that way. Just correct it and move forward. Because if I were to say, I'm trying to get beyond the place where I am in my thoughts, and then I recognize what I just said, I clean that up. I am beyond where I once was in my thoughts because I know who I am. That kind of thing. You see what I'm saying? Just clean it up. And even if it takes 2 hours for you to realize what you said, it doesn't matter. Because the last thing that you say impacts your reality, impacts your future. What you call the future anyway. So, in order to minimize, if not to totally eliminate this impact, this negative impact, just think before you speak. I grew up learning that because I had a sharp tongue. And I was always to think before you speak. It'll save you a lot of trouble. And now I understand that a different way than what I understood it during that period. But both of them are the same thing. One gets you in trouble in this material world, religious world. And now we're understanding that it gets you in trouble spiritually because you revert back to materialism or the material world. Questions or comments?
I just want to thank the Faith family for being willing to correct me as I need correction. And I want to thank the Faith family for being willing to receive correction, because that's how we build each other up and that's how we support each other spiritually. So thank you, family.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I concur with what Barbara just said wholeheartedly.
I want to thank all of you. And thank you, Sage and Barbara, for saying that. It means a lot. And I'm willing, open to correction. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? What has happened today is you did contemplation afterwards, yesterday, and contemplation overnight. And from that contemplation came questions. From that from your thoughts about what had been said came a desire for clarity. So I'm asking you to do your contemplations, visit your thoughts, and be prepared to raise questions or to present what you need clarity on tomorrow afternoon. I don't I don't for a moment believe that we are finished with this discussion. I don't believe that for a moment because there is so much so much to engage with, to this understanding of this language of English and our responsibility for freeing it from the contamination that it was birthed with. Okay?
I guess I am amazed at, now I speak for myself, what I didn't know. I mean, we started this journey many years ago and we were in different places physically, but we had the same goal of love and harmony and bringing peace to the world. And we were trying to do it, or doing it rather, by understanding the scriptures. But that's where we were, and that's all we had. And looking at where we are and what this journey is taking us, the awareness and the things that are being uncovered, and we're discovering uh, and seeing. It seems like for the first time, but we know now that there aren't. It just amazes me, the place that we sit now, uh, and looking at how this awareness has affected the energy of the world, and some of it has gotten more chaotic, but it had to. But just looking at what this little group has caused to happen because we search for truth. That's there's there is no English word to put that in perspective.
And,
So
Because it's an experience, right?
yeah,
and Ron, because of our desire to operate on the universal frequency, I mean, we're able to, appreciate our journey.
yeah,
You're right.
yeah.
Um, you're right. The last thing I want you to say is this, and this is one sentence, two sentences, out of one of the paragraphs that I wrote in February. We were led by people who have a common origin as we have, a leadership that were paid to lead us into the clutches of death. Maybe we can talk about that tomorrow.
Okay.
Be well and always carry Ashe in your life because Ashe speaks also to everything that you're grateful for.
Mm. You. Be well.
Be well, everyone.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I